another episode of Video Game Logic. Today's show was recorded on August 7th, 2018. I'm your host, Gaming Psychologist, and with me, as always, the Sultan of Balls, I think?
No, I think that's you. You are the Sultan of Balls. I'm just Caffeine Rage.
And you're going to have to listen to a bonus episode or a Franken episode to figure out what the fuck we're talking about. On today's show, we will, of course, be discussing the games that we played this week. There are some big games not coming to big distributors. Star Citizen fans raise pay-to-win objections over removal of in-game currency stockpiling cap. We've got a couple of news topics about Steam. Elon Musk is adding Atari Classics to Tesla software and wants original games for the car displays. We'll have our weekly community corner and our Steam weekly discovery queue. Timestamps will be in the show notes following their respective topics. Hello, Rage.
Hello.
You know, normally we go for a little bit before we start recording, but I don't know if this has ever happened before. We started our recording and then went for 20 minutes before we actually started our recording. We found something, dear listener, on the internet that I kind of want to tell you about, but I also kind of want to keep it a secret for when the Franken show comes out and you get to hear what we've been doing for the last 20 minutes.
You make it sound so
wonderful. Dirty. It is kind of dirty. We made it that way on purpose, although some of the things didn't help with that. Like, they were encouraging us. Well, they were encouraging me, and then I encouraged you.
Which I encouraged you back.
Yeah, it's just a cycle of perviness. And I approve of this. And. Indeed, and. So we'll just leave that as a tease. Maybe I'll put a little bit of it in the post outro song so you can get a taste of what we're talking about.
A taste?
And then realize that there's... You know, I didn't do that on purpose, but that's perfect. But no, you'll get a taste of it, and then you can realize that there's like another 15 to 18 minutes of that coming in the next Franken episode.
Oh, coming.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I got you good on that one.
You did. So I'm gonna start us off with a tale of stupidity. I'm just gonna get this out of the way while I'm energetic before I'm tired at the end of the show. So Apple is stupid. iTunes is ridiculous. And Apple Podcast Connect made me want to strangle someone.
And I'm glad it's not me.
The other day. So last week, did you mention it on air, or did you just mention it to me?
No, I initiated this entire thing when... Well, I have to start off with what triggered all this. I was poking around on Reddit, and I saw the news article about Alex Jones getting kicked off Spotify from the podcast section. And my second reaction, my first was, well, I'm shocked it took that long. My second was, wait, Spotify has a podcast section? So I started digging to figure out how to put us on there. And turns out it was all of 3 check marks on our Podbean account. So we're on Spotify now, by the way.
Woohoo!
And actually caused a hell of an upturn on our traffic. I mean, we had 90 downloads the day that we got approved. I mean, I realized not all of that would be Spotify, but damn.
Yeah, who knew Spotify did some good podcasting.
I didn't. But anyway, whenever I put that on there, it started bitching about iTunes not being set on the Podbean account. So I did a quick Google search, and I wasn't able to find the active iTunes feed. I was just finding our original one that had 1 through 90 on the episode list. So I asked you to go check it out because, I wasn't able to find it, but I also wasn't loading up iTunes to go check. Not that you can blame me on that one.
No, so the podcast has been loaded. I mean, it was on iTunes the whole time.
Yeah.
You come to find, go through this whole process to find it was on iTunes the whole time. But it's tied to my specific Amazon account. Or not Amazon, God. iTunes account. I don't know why I said Amazon.
Yeah, so I wouldn't have been able to really check anyway.
Yeah, so you couldn't have checked anyways. But they migrated all of this stuff away from the way that it used to be done.
And that's why I wasn't finding it.
To this thing that they call iTunes Connect, and then specifically within iTunes Connect, Podcast Connect. What was happening initially that I was trying to log in, and it basically had me in an infinite login loop where you would log in and then click on the link to go to the podcast, and then it would like fail, and then you'd have to go log in again, repeat ad nauseum. So my initial thought was try a different browser, turn it off and back on again, wait a couple of days, or wait a day in case there's a problem with iTunes. None of that worked. So I went to the forums for a solution. And the solution that I found, initially I was like, this has to be ridiculous. Like, maybe like one of these things solved it, but this is one of those cases where people like attribute false things to... correlation does not equal causation, but they were thinking like two unrelated things were actually related, but they managed to accidentally do the right thing. But no, they were right. The whole thing has to be done, because I did this step by step. Allow me to walk you through the process for how I had to sign into my Apple Podcast account. Number one, you have to download the iTunes app or program to whatever device you're going to use. Sign into it and accept the terms of service. Fair enough. Stupid. Fair enough. Then you have to connect your iTunes account from that to your Apple or iTunes Connect account. Okay? Annoying? Fair enough. Fine. Then you have to have a credit card on your account. Like an actual credit card. You can't use PayPal. You can't redirect to some other sort of payment service. You can't use a debit card. You have to use a credit card, and then you have to validate this credit card. I don't know why. I really don't know why. I tried like everything under the sun without doing it, and then finally I was like, fuck it. I'll try it. Just for shits and giggles. And then it let me through. So you have to have an actual valid credit card on your account. Then you have to wait for the verification process. Then you have to log back in, and accept the new terms of service because you put a credit card on your account instead of using PayPal or something else. Then you have to log into your Podcast Connect account, tie that to your iTunes account. So you think you already did that once, but no, you have to do it the other way also for reasons? I don't know. Maybe it didn't count the first time. But regardless, you have to tie your Podcast Connect account to your iTunes account. All right? Then you have to log out, wait for it to verify, log back in, and then you can check your thing. So stupid. It took me like 2 hours to go through this whole process once I was actually trying to do what the thing said. I immediately uninstalled iTunes off of my laptop once I was done. I was like, fuck you, iTunes. Well, first I removed the credit card from my account, because I don't know why they want that shit on there. And then just for like shits and giggles, after I moved the credit card, I couldn't log back in. Then I removed iTunes from my laptop, because I did all this from my laptop at work yesterday. Or Monday, if you're listening to this.
Yeah,
in the future, obviously.
Well, unless they're listening to it in the past, then that's very impressive.
Indeed. So yeah, that was one of my two fuck yous to companies for this week, and the other one I'll get to when I talk about games I played this week.
I do apologize for sending you on that wild goose chase. I mean, I think I at least had justified reasons. I did search as far as I could, short of installing iTunes, of course. Yeah. And if you actually look on iTunes, like once it's installed, you can see it. Okay. Yeah, you can see it. You don't actually have to go check. But yeah, Spotify was throwing that. Podbean was throwing the error saying that it wasn't set up, but it was through the Podbean account itself and not attached to the RSS feed. So I think that's why that was going on in the first place. I think. I don't know. I don't usually handle the feed stuff for obvious reasons. Because I don't have the patience. Yeah. Yep. Although this is the worst one I've ever dealt with. By far the worst. So, yeah. My other
issue with companies this week has to do with games I played. So, why don't we just go ahead and jump on over to there?
And
Tell us about
give you a moment to cool down before you go into another rant.
Yeah. So what games did you play this week, Rage?
Most of mine is from, at least at the time of the recording, the newest game Humble Bundle, because it seems like Humble Bundle is going all ebooks for some reason. I don't know why they've gone this route. They have 6 bundles active, and one is the monthly bundle, which is pretty much always games anyway. And they have 4 ebook bundles of various flavors. And then they have one games bundle, which is the first games bundle they've had in ages that hasn't been in the Humble Monthly. So I picked that up to try to encourage that behavior, you know? And they also had a couple interesting things in it to begin with. It was the sports bundle. And one of the games in it that was on the Beat the Average tier, which was something that I wanted to play on PC for a while, and I played on mobile twice. Motorsport Manager. Yes, we're all the way back to Motorsport Manager.
Woohoo!
And it is quite different on PC. It's a lot deeper of an experience. And I know that sounds like a very obvious statement, but that's not always the case with a mobile port. But it was a welcomed thing that it's a lot more of an active experience on PC. You have more things to do, and you have to actually pay attention to the damn thing. Because one problem I've hit with Motorsport Manager, both the first one and the second one, is that it's a very passive experience. You only really have to make 1 or 2 decisions throughout the game, or throughout the individual races, I should say. There's nothing really that you have to do in between the races to be able to be at least competitive. And there's a lot of luck involved, particularly with how your car is managed. Because there's some sort of dice roll behind the scenes, especially in Motorsport Manager 2, where it relies on certain stats of your drivers on how much your car degrades over the course of a race. So, yeah. In Motorsport Manager on PC, it adds a lot more management stuff to do. You have to handle your race crew. You have to set up your pit crew and be able to swap them out, because you also have stamina on them. That's probably the biggest thing that I've noticed, is that your crew not only are able to make mistakes, but you are able to specialize them a bit more to be able to try to get a few seconds off that pit time. And also, pit times seem to be a lot shorter in this, but that may just be just different disciplines of racing. And this is more of a career management game than a team management game, where it is your motorsport manager, your guy in the motorsport world. Because you are able to swap teams, you're able to co-create your own from the very beginning, even though I have to admit, making your own from the very beginning is an extremely frustrating process, because you start with pretty much nothing but a bag of money. And you may think, well, okay, so you got money. You'll at least be somewhat competitive, right? No, you won't be, at least for a couple of seasons while you build up your base of operations, essentially. And even, joining a pre-made team, you don't really get offers for very competitive teams, but then again, it's kind of makes sense that you don't get competitive teams, because you're a new manager coming in. Why would a team that's very competitive need a new manager, right? So,
right.
Overall, like I said, it's a lot more of an active experience in this game. You're having to watch your tire temperatures in game during the race, and tell your drivers to back off, or gun it whenever the tire temperature warrants it. There's an actual grip meter, so as the race continues on, rubber meets the road and then gets left behind. And it allows you to run harder tires to be able to try to keep your lap times up, making use of the extra grip on the road, but also that's essentially reset whatever rain shows up. The qualifying, and there's actually a full-blown practice section, which is actually really nice. Qualifying and car management is a lot deeper in this game. I have to say that it's definitely worth picking up on PC, unless you just want something to tinker around with, because it is a lot more... I'm not sure if I'm going to say a lot more difficult right now, because I'm still in the initial seasons, which, you're building up your reputation to be able to get on better teams, or building up the team that you're going to be sticking with. And there's a lot more moving parts. I think that's the most fair thing to say. It's a lot more complex, but not in a bad way. So it's a welcome thing. There's an interplay between the drivers and the pit crew and the mechanics, and as the two get the drivers and the mechanics get along together, they unlock additional perks and are able to perform a lot better. Especially late at night with some capsaicin. Jared's kind of quiet. Are you?
Indeed.
Franken episode would make that last comment make a lot more sense.
Yeah. It was.
But overall, I can't really talk too much about the game overall because, I'm still in that initial build-up. There's a lot more decisions to make. You feel a lot more like a motorsport manager. Maybe that's why they named it that. And the free version of the game, and even the paid one, still feels like a demo to this one. And I would say that it's the best by far on PC. But if you're just wanting something to be able to just tinker around with, it's definitely worth it checking out on mobile. It's not a worse experience, it's a more simple experience, if that makes any sense. Yeah,
no, that makes sense.
I think I prefer playing a pre-made team though, because the build-up for a new team is just painful. I mean, even going to a new team is not great, but you at least have your initial building set up. What team starts up and doesn't even have their headquarters built, right?
The team that I'd put together on my budget.
Oh, so your budget would be for $40 million? God,
I wish I had $40 million. It'd be so amazing. I'd own my own home and pay off all my student debt. And there might be some money left over.
I'm just trying to think of anything else really major to say, because this is I've pretty much covered this game twice already. This is more just covering the new mechanics. Scouting new drivers is a lot more in depth now, and you're able to actually get some more information on them. Oh, one thing that's interesting is that the drivers are in the mobile version. It's essentially your traditional RPG level up system, where as your drivers level up, you could attribute an attribute point, hence the name, to one of the skills that the driver has up to a certain point where they essentially max out. In this, they actually slowly gain experience across all their attributes at once. And that's based on their just overall skill level, a combination of your background as a character in the game, and some other factors which I'm not 100% certain on. But I think I like that more, where it's not just, hey, I'm suddenly better at braking, or I'm suddenly better at overtaking, instead of that slow progression of skill. It feels a lot more natural. I will say that I'm still getting the hang of things. The race I was doing just before we started recording, because someone showed up early, I was actually doing really well, and then my driver kind of broke his car.
Oh, nice.
And in this game, you're able to pull into the pits and fix individual parts. but it was 2 laps left, and my driver was in like 14th or 13th place. Good enough to, that the CEO of the company would get off my back because, that's also a thing is that your job could be in jeopardy if you perform poorly for too long. Almost like there's a reason why so many companies have spots for motorsport managers. Huh. But he ended up breaking his brakes. He broke too much.
He braked too much and broke his brakes.
Yeah, which it may be my fault that I didn't upgrade the brakes enough, because there's also the ability to both improve and improve stat-wise, but also make it so that parts are more reliable, because the starting parts that you get for the car, at least at the beginning of the first season, is abysmal. But it may just be that I'm on a low-tier team to begin with, so that's also probably mixing into things. There's a different, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer in this. But there is room for upward progress. It's just a slow grind. But it's a management game. That's what it's supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
It's a slow progression. It's not like the mobile game where if you play long enough, as long as you don't make a stupid mistake or the weather doesn't dick you over, you are pretty much guaranteed to win. Which I actually like that. But then again, I do like my hard things.
Aw, yeah.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much Motorsport Manager. Definitely worth checking out if you're into the management genre. It probably helps a little bit more if you know the disciplines of racing that you're taking part in. I wouldn't say that it's necessary. Just need to know really the terminology and some of the different things, especially tire compounds. What tires to use when. That's what's really tripping me up in this, is that it's a lot more detailed. So certain tires are a lot better in certain weather conditions, and I haven't quite gotten that down yet. And also, certain weather conditions also make it so that certain tires aren't nearly as effective as they would be because they overheat. So on a hot day, you don't want to run very, very soft tires because they tend to overheat and then kind of melt off the car. Yeah, and that's a bad thing, by the way.
Yep. That is a bad thing. You're right.
So the other racing game that I played, also from the same bundle, was Grid 2. Which, for those who are keeping count, that's the sequel to the original Grid, by the way. And I didn't play this nearly as much as Motorsport Manager, and I have to say that I think this is maybe the place where Codemasters, at least the Grid and Dirt series, started to kind of lose their flavor. Is that Grid 2 feels a little, I don't know, dull, I guess. And I think it really ties into, the main thing is that, remember how I talked about Dirt 4 having the procedural map generation ages ago?
Yeah.
It started with Dirt 2. Or if it didn't start with Dirt 2, Dirt 2 really, really emphasized it. Where they have what they call live routes, where certain races, it's not all races, thankfully, will have it where you're essentially going on this procedurally generated track, but let's be perfectly honest, it's not procedural generation, it's chunk-based generation. Where, as you race along, it builds the track ahead of you. So you don't quite know what's going to happen, which is a very, very realistic thing for a racing game, because the driver wouldn't know what the course is like, right?
Well, I mean, after enough practice.
No. The course is always changing. So even if you replay the same level, it's going to be a different map. And what's also irritating is also on those, it disables the mini map. So there was a couple times.
Oh.
There was a couple times that I would, start to pull into a certain to a turn, and not realize that it's an S turn until it's too late. So I'm set up completely wrong on the racing line. But the other cars are able to follow the proper racing line, which is a little irritating. You know?
Yeah.
There should be some sort of variance on that if they're going to try to emphasize corner-to-corner racing, bro. Because they do have the whole dude bro thing. And they also have the, progression linked to social media followers. Granted, it's not as irritating as it was in the Crew 2, but I think it's not quite as in your face, even though it does have the counter after every race. It's still essentially a progression system where your performance in individual races matters more than doing some stupid trick in an airplane sitting upside down while air drifting. While air drifting is just applying the rudder enough, so it's not as annoying to me. Granted, the whole idea of social media followers as a progression gate is still irritating, but it makes a little bit more sense in universe for this because they're building up this new racing league and trying to get essentially sponsors and drive clubs to join. So the fact that you're the face of the new racing league is a popular racer makes a little bit more sense, even though you're not the one funding it to begin with. And I do have to admit, it was a little interesting to see CNN come up, or not CNN, ESPN with SportsCenter. And because it's the custom name driver and they can't use the custom name because, they can't do the full motion video because I think it was full motion video, or if it wasn't, it was very convincing with all the filters on it. They couldn't name your racer, so they just were talking about this new guy rising up in this racing league. It's kind of like whenever a cutscene in an RPG doesn't want to use a gender-specific pronoun because of character customization, and they don't want to have to re-record the entire script twice. Or have you ever noticed that?
No, I've noticed that before.
Yeah, it's the same basic idea there, only they couldn't name the character. Which amused me. Overall, though, it's a very arcadey racer, and I think maybe more arcadey than what I like. I think I might be a sim racer that just doesn't have the experience with racing games. Because the lack of a practice mode, the lack of any tuning in the game irritates me. Especially whenever they force you to drive particular cars in these events. And you don't even have the chance to really get a feel for the car, so you're going to have to race it at least twice. Particularly on some of the more irritating tracks. Where, you're driving into the sun and you can't see. Granted, I don't think that would really help the handling on some of these cars, but yeah, a lot of the cars are listed as drift cars, by the way, so you can imagine how racing goes in this game. Drifto!
Probably a lot of power sliding.
Yeah, and what's kind of at least a little immersion breaking for me on it is that the player character is the only one that drifts around corners. Unless it's a drift event, which I'm pretty sure is in this game. But on normal racing, nobody drifts except me. Maybe that's why I'm the rising star. I've unlocked the ability of drifting.
Maybe, but drifting is around corners is slower than not, so... Oh, maybe that's why you're the rising star. You can win even though you're constantly drifting.
I've broken physics. And my tires. Because that's the other thing, is that drifting just destroys tires, right?
Yeah, it does shred tires.
But to be fair, racing in this game is like 2 or 3 minutes, 5 minutes for a long race. So, you don't need your tires to last that long.
Yeah, your tires might last 5 minutes.
Just like you?
Oh, I could definitely last 5 minutes.
Especially with some of the
That's
stuff you
about all
just
you
bought.
get. Oh, yeah.
But it's pretty much just the original grid, only with the social media stuff tacked onto it. Since I don't think that was really as prominent when the original grid came out. Maybe I'm just getting I'm losing my feel for Codemaster racing games. I don't know, or I just prefer off-road racing. I did get Dirt Rally in this pack as well. Maybe I should give that another shot. Since now I own it, give it a little bit more patience with the controller, see if I could actually get it where it's not as damn twitchy. But then again, that's also more on the sim side of things. Oh, but yeah, overall, it's not a bad racing game. It's just, there were some things that irritated me about it, particularly that live line racing. And also, since it is a procedurally generated or chunk-based map, there were more than one race that I started seeing the same corners over and over again, and I wasn't driving around in laps. So, that's definitely a knock on it. There's just something about, going through a corner, hanging a left, a right, go down a long straightaway, and then go down go through the same corner that you went through just a bit ago, for verbatim.
Yeah.
That's
like a magic racetrack.
Yeah, that irritated the hell out of me in Dirt 4 when I was trying that out on a free weekend, and it turns out I found where it came from. Yeah. But yeah, that's Grid 2. So on to my last one.
Yep. What's your last one?
My last one was my Sunday sampler, Radiant 1. And I'm going to try not to talk about this for longer than what the game is actually lengthwise. Because this is a 30-minute game. And I didn't realize that at the very beginning. This is a point-and-click adventure where you are a guy that is experimenting with lucid dreaming. And he ends up causing some sort of essentially blurring the world, or the line between reality and the dream world, which unlocks these creatures that keeps trying to kill him while he's asleep. There's a lot to this game that feels like it could have been fleshed out a lot more. There's a lot of time jumps where they were talking about within the first 5 minutes. They talk about him spending weeks lucid dreaming every night, slowly blurring the line between reality and dreams. But why don't they show that? Right?
Right.
This is...
Wait, they're not... Sorry, keep going.
This is a very pretty game. The art style is very nice, but they skip so much potential content to essentially just give a very Crib Notes almost version of what the story would have been. Like I said, I went through this game in 30 minutes. And that is taking my time and making notes, by the way. You could probably do it in 25 to 20 if you just are playing. That's not even, trying to rush. Essentially, I'm not sure how much spoilers I should go into on this, but essentially, he remembers a conflict between himself and his brother, and his lucid dreaming is trying to resolve that in his unconscious mind, even though that's not even what lucid dreaming is supposed to be about, right?
Right.
It's supposed to be a conscious, shaping your dream. And this is kind of the reverse of lucid dreaming. And in all this as well, there's some of these creatures that are from the dream world that is actively hunting him when he's asleep and it's actually able to hurt him. There's one point where he gets slashed on the hand and he wakes up and he has a cut on his hand. So, you die in the dream, you die in reality, all Matrix style. It's just a very, very strange thing that feels like it needed at least a plot revision or two, to be able to really kind of hammer this home and, actually develop the plot. This feels like the rough draft of, the outline of what they wanted to do, but didn't really have the money to be able to do the full story. So they just, did 3 or 4 time jumps. And no, I'm not joking. There are 3 or 4 time jumps in a half an hour game.
Huh. I mean, I like the art style.
Yeah, that's
I like some of the imagery that they're showing.
I like
the
the imagery, and I like the idea of it behind it. But once I started getting into it, and this is a mobile port, by the way, so that may be part of the reason why it's so short, and also why it has such an odd control scheme, which I haven't even touched on. But there's a lot of really interesting and really good ideas behind this that are just muddled. I mean, the one of the screenshots is in from like 2/3 of the game. But the control scheme, let's get into that. Okay, so on one of the screenshots, you can see this circle with a line on it, or with an arrow on it. This is essentially a direct port from their mobile port, where thankfully they at least changed tap to click, where everything is revolved around this circle with a dot in it. For some things, you have to tap it or click it. For some, you have to click rapidly. For some, you have to click and hold. And for the more irritating ones, you have to click and drag. And you may think, oh, well, click and drag, that's not so bad. Well, it's click and drag, then go back to the dot and click and drag in a different direction if it requires you to do 2 in a row. And there's a couple of sequences in the game where I screwed up because I didn't realize that it was constantly going back to that dot. Because at first, it was click it a couple times, click and hold it, now drag the dot. But it essentially is acting almost like a joystick, on-screen joystick, which makes it very irritating to use with a mouse and keyboard. It's just a weird design choice, which I assume is just, kind of the lazy mobile port. And you also are getting hit with the mobile tax, or the PC tax, even though this is a $5 game. It's $2 on iTunes. Or, sorry, the iStore, the Apple Store. So, yeah.
Do you think that this game would be better in its original intended platform?
I think
on
so.
A mobile device?
It has the right price point, and it also, it's one of those games that you pick up and have the quick experience, and that's it. On PC, and as a matter of fact, I talked about that on the Sunday Sampler, where I think it's a difference in expectation, because coming at it as a PC game, I expect more, especially when they do multiple time jumps, where they talk about, the importance of him learning how to control the lucid dreams and blurring the line between reality and the dreamscape. And the fact that they don't show it and showing him go too far. I mean, I played the game 3 times in an hour and some change. I mean, barely hour and some change. And that's including recording. So maybe it's just me being too demanding of this game because I'm coming in as a PC gamer. But I really think that there was a lot more here that they could have explored. And that's what really disappointed me. I'm not mad, I'm disappointed. Especially with the art style, because the art style is done really well. It has sort of this almost comic book-like art style to it. That's very, very detailed. And I did hit at least one pathing bug, because this is essentially a point-and-click adventure with the mobile thing on top of it. And there was a couple pathing issues that... there was one point where you go through an elevator and he kept trying to path through the closed doors. And because it's such a short game, any bugs are magnified to begin with. I mean, it's not a game-breaking bug, but at the same time, it's an irritating thing. But yeah, I'm just very disappointed by this, because I was really going to this hoping that it was going to be well, I shouldn't say hoping it would be an interesting adventure because it was, but something more substantial than just this little morsel.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, it is still in the. Cool. I mean, it's still in that very impulse buy range, and the overall story is very interesting. But yeah, I just wish there was more.
Yeah.
And this is from a developer that this is their third game on Steam. Their second one really fell apart. It was essentially a Left 4 Dead clone. And their first one was actually a pretty decent hit, but they sold it to their publisher. So it makes me wonder, if they're trying to focus more on mobile ports. Or not mobile ports, but more on the mobile platform, because their last major game on Steam just didn't sell that well. Which is very possible. And I think that's about it, unless you have some questions about it.
I don't think so. I might try this out on mobile. I've got a few bucks.
Well, it's on iTunes only. Or it's on Apple only so far.
Oh. Well, shit. If it comes to the Play Store at some point, I might try it out if I've got a couple of bucks.
Yeah, I think
hanging out in my account.
Would be more interesting to you because of your professional background. Because there's a conflict here that the lucid dreaming kind of brings up in his subconscious. But once again, that's not what lucid dreaming is. Maybe if they showed him, going too far, especially since he's wearing himself out as well. He's doing this so much he's not actually sleeping, which I'm not sure if, that is an issue with lucid dreaming or not, because I never researched that. I have enough trouble with my sleep. I don't need to add that to it.
Yeah.
But, he's just beat to begin with. So, maybe this was all a nightmare. But, yeah.
Maybe so.
So, time for your second grievance?
Right. So let's go talk about the only other game I played this week, or the only game I played this week, which was No Man's Sky after the next update released.
Oh, what? You're not playing for this one?
Hi-yo.
Hey-yo.
Got back into that after the big update released. Many thoughts, but my first thought is, Jesus fucking Christ, the optimization on this game is so bad. So bad. It was kind of hit or miss before. In general, I could average 60 plus on all but like the most horrendous of planets, like with horrible weather effects and like wacky, crazy amounts of terrain and shit that you have to deal with. Or like whenever I got to my base, because it's one of those things that just like the more stuff you build into your base, the more complicated it is, and that really kills performance. But with the next update, it's got even worse. There are even more people complaining about the game's performance than before, and it doesn't seem to be biased like just against AMD hardware. It's just pretty much across the board poor performance, unless you're just one of the lucky people to have the right hardware combination that likes, or that likes it. But there are things that drag it down a substantial amount, and this is where my other company grievance comes in with fuck Windows 10 and the game DVR in particular. So I've turned this off, or I had turned it off, but as Windows 10 is one to do, oftentimes with updates, but also sometimes randomly just because it wants to, it will change settings, turn things back on, completely reset any audio setup you've got, that sort of thing. It just fucks with your stuff. And the game DVR was dragging my performance down by about 50%. And so with like everything turned to the minimum, everything turned off, initially I was getting like 35, 40 FPS in the best locations, and on most planets it was unplayable, like slideshow quality. So I looked into that, and everyone was like, "Hey, this game DVR just completely wrecks this game, and if you're playing it on PC, just double check to make sure that game DVR is turned off." And it had turned itself back on. So when I turned that off, and after some fiddling with the settings and things, I got it to run at 60 or greater in space and in space stations and on sort of plane-ish planets, and then somewhere between 30 and 60 for planets, and it's just the more shit that's going on with planets, the lower the frame rate. And then my base is like still like 20 or 25 FPS, so I just avoid my base as much as possible, doing a bunch of exploring right now. But the things that they've added to and changed in the game, besides destroying its already middling performance, the list is pretty good. They completely changed the resource system. I mean, it's still, shooting rocks to mine resources, but instead of there being so many different resources, they've created sort of a resource tree and have added refining to the game. So you can refine materials up to the resource you need. So no longer do you have to sometimes scour the galaxy for that one particular resource to craft warp fuel. Now it's like, okay, I can just get the basic resources if on any planet and craft those or refine those up to whatever I need to craft my warp fuel, basically. And this has really simplified the process for all of the crafting in the game, which makes the crafting system a little more bearable. It's honestly got a pretty shitty crafting system as far as that goes. That's always been pretty bad. But just simplifying the resource trees has helped with the crafting system pretty immensely. They've made inventory management a little better. It's still not great, but now you don't have to drag and drop everything anywhere. If you want to move something to a different inventory, you just hover over it and hit X, and it'll bring up a menu and transfer this stack to what inventory, and you can quickly move stuff to your ship inventory or one of your vehicles, like your rovers, or a storage container at a base or on a freighter. So that's an improvement. There's lots of little UI improvements and things too. The HUD is more understandable. There's more information that is displayed that helps you out. They actually have a menu key to pull the HUD back up without having to draw your weapon, so you don't accidentally shoot things that you don't want to whenever you're wandering around. But the HUD naturally fades on its own so that you can get better screenshots, I guess. Although it's got a fully fledged photo mode with lots of effects and things, and that's been in the game for a while.
It has filters?
It's got filters. It's like Snapchat. I've already taken a number of new screenshots and added them to my rolling background folder. So that's nice. Or my desktop background folder that cycles through. They didn't completely. They changed up the procedural generation model a bit to try and increase the diversity of things. And I will say that I've noticed new ship designs that I didn't see before, new creature designs that I didn't see before. It's hard to tell how much the terrain generation has changed. I certainly have been finding more interesting things on every planet that I've been to so far. It's not like every 3 seconds, ooh, there's a thing, but instead of wandering around sometimes for 30 or 40 minutes to try and find a thing without using a special scanner to locate.
So it's not like this is the chartreuse planet. This is the maroon planet.
Yeah, there's more stuff on the planets. There's still single biome planets, but there's a little more variety, I think, in the terrain and things like that. Although it completely wiped out any bases that you had before, because regenerating the terrain would have changed the areas where the base plots were. Although now there's no base plots, you can just build anywhere. You craft.
You can plot it down anywhere.
Yeah, you craft a base like marker, and you can plop that down anywhere and start building a base. It took me a little bit. I thought that, excuse me, I thought that I was experiencing some kind of glitch, but because of some things that I had done with my base before, I actually had to put it in a specific planet type. So I thought I had lost my base forever, and I was like, fuck, I might have to start this whole process over. I'm still like learning how the new changes work, but it turns out like there's a little quest that you get that is like, hey, you should go find a suitable place to plop down your base. And it took me to a place where I could build it, and then it just like spawned. So it's not gone forever, which is good, because I put a lot of time into building my base previously. Although I avoid it like the plague half the time because of the frame rate issues. Thank God I completed all of the base quest lines, because that's people's biggest complaints. So many base quests are bugging out because you get a number of quest givers at your base in order to unlock. It's sort of like a glorified tutorial for how a lot of the in-game systems work. You get some extra stuff about crafting, about growing plants, about terrain manipulation, the vehicle stuff, a few other things. It basically acts like a glorified tutorial for that. But there are missions that aren't spawning, or missions that aren't completing, rewards aren't spawning, things like that, that people are having tons of problems with. And I've already done all of that from the past update. So you get like daily quests now. They're not daily quests. They're quests that are on a timer. Every 2 or 3 hours you can complete one, and they just encourage you to explore the area. At least so far, the ones that I've gotten are like, take a screenshot of this type of biome or this type of thing, and then you get unique items. Most of them are just, they sell for a lot of cash, but some of them can be like broken down for resources and stuff. So that's, nice little extra thing.
So,
the questing system has been...
do you have a quest to go find Spider-Man? If you're taking pictures?
Yes, take a picture of Spider-Man. The questing system that was added in the last update, Atlas Rises, I think is what it was called, has been expanded upon. And there's now additional like guild quests that once you've done enough stuff with a faction, you unlock like some higher level faction quests. All of the space stations and bases have been redesigned, both to have more types and also that they feel more alive. Previously, basically every base station or every space station or base can be broken down into land ship at place, walk into one of 2 rooms, interact with NPC in rooms. And sometimes there would be 2 or 3 NPCs in a room. But now there are many more NPCs, and also some of them kind of wander around a little bit, so it seems like there's actually activity at the base.
And is there in many more rooms?
There are many more rooms. They've all been visually redesigned. The insides of all the space stations are basically the same. There's some sort of decorations that are different, and I'm not sure if that's like based on what race owns the station or if it's just sort of random. But yeah, they still look... They look better. They look more inhabited, more lived in. Let's see, what else am I missing?
Now, is it
the biggest thing that
future? Are we talking Star Trek or Star Wars right now?
Say that again.
I realize Star Wars is not the future, but does it look more beat up, or everything's super shiny?
Oh no, everything's very shiny.
So the Star Trek universe.
Yeah. Definitely. But let's see, I'm trying to think of what else am I missing. There's this whole new update with they've completely rebalanced the freighters system and the economy. This is the one bug that I've had, and it's also apparently a fairly common bug. There's now a mission that you sort of stumble onto, and it's basically just you defend a freighter from some pirates or something, and then the captain is like relieved that you saved his ship, and he gives it to you,
because that makes a lot of sense.
So you get a free freighter, and it's like a really crappy low level freighter, but it still has got like a ton of storage space compared to your ship, and compared to even what you can do with a base. And they can like jump farther in hyperspace than your small ship can and stuff like that. But a fairly common bug is that you complete that mission, but then the game doesn't register that you own a freighter. So that happened to me. I got the free freighter mission. I own the freighter. Like, I can go back to the system where the freighter is and land on it and walk up to the captain. And it's like, oh, yes, this is my freighter. I'm going to talk to the captain. And I can interact with the things that I can interact with the captain. But I can't actually do anything else with the freighter. I can't build on it. I can't fly it around. And I can't summon it to me, like to a planet or whatever that I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, well, am I just fucked? Am I going to have to like continue to save up to buy a freighter, which is what I was doing anyways? But people have said no, the quest will just sort of randomly spawns every once in a while.
Well, that's one way to fix it. Keep doing it. It'll eventually work.
Yeah, and then after it spawns, like after the first time you get, you're locked into like one type of freighter stat-wise. Like, it can appear visually different, but they all have the exact same stats. But after the first time, it can be any freighter. So you can't do worse than the one that you get than that first one.
At least with that attitude.
You could get the same, or you could get a better freighter for free. So I'm just going to keep saving up to buy a freighter, and then if I happen to run into that mission again before I buy it, then hopefully the game doesn't bug out twice, and I can get a freighter for free. But freighters initially were in the tens to hundreds of millions of dollars, with even like the lowest the lowest class, crappiest freighters being 40, 50 million credits. And now you can get that equivalent class for like 4 or 5 million, which is not hard to get at all, even in the early game. There's certain things that you can get that are, just farm for shitloads of credits. But am I missing anything else before I get to multiplayer? Oh, they added third-person views for ships and players. They added customization so that you can change your character model and like paint your gear and equipment. They redid how the weapon or the upgrade system works for all of your equipment and made it better and smoother and easier. Like before, like there's certain sort of like, what's the way to say it? Like equipment add-ons that you have to craft using materials, but they're just straight up flat upgrades that are like, make your mining laser 10% more heat efficient or whatever, like stuff like that that you can just buy and attach to your weapons without having to craft.
So add-ons.
So yeah, and you can get those fast and early, and they're relatively cheap.
Do they have the laser dot or the red dot? Do you have to iron sight?
Personally, I went for the ACOG. I've always been a big fan of the ACOG sights, but that's just me. But anyways, that whole system is basically simplified and improved. Taking a drink there, sorry. There's there's a few other little changes that I'm sure I'm not thinking of offhand. And maybe there's a few things I haven't discovered yet. I know that they made some changes to the way that freighters work, but since I didn't get my freighter because the game bugged out, I couldn't tell you what those changes are.
It's very reassuring that the game has fixed all its bugs, and it's actually running properly.
Yeah, that sucks. But the last big thing is the multiplayer, like actual true multiplayer. Because initially, obviously, there was no multiplayer. That was a huge pack of lies. And then they added like this little sort of Fable-style orb that you could see if you were close to another player.
And it kept yelling to, hey, listen.
Yeah, I think you could interact just by like talking to each other. Like you could talk and send messages, but you couldn't actually play together. But now you can play together, and I haven't actually tried the multiplayer out yet. We were talking about this earlier. I'm a fairly solitary player when it comes to games like this, because for me it's a very relaxing, listen to podcasts, do a thing that doesn't require a lot of brain power experience. but several people in our community have been playing multiplayer a lot. So as to how well it works, I can't speak to that, but it was most people's most anticipated feature about the game. So it seems to be working fine. I know there's a load of, well, I say it's working fine. There's a load of bugs that are associated with it about how that it fucks up your game too. Sort of like your traditional multiplayer issue stuff, like it'll register progression for you and then make you unable to complete quests because it, like, the game thinks you're on a different quest, or terrain generation doesn't work properly in both games, so you could wind up stranded if you exit out of someone's game and you're in some sort of custom environment that you've built together, but you weren't the one hosting it. And it's got things like where players can't have more than one frigate or more than one freighter in an area at the same time, so only one person can have their freighter summoned at once. Those are the ones I can think of right off the top of my head. But most people seem to be enjoying it overall. I don't like the two biggest things, multiplayer and third person view, I couldn't give a shit about. I still play the game in first person. I tried third person, and there's like nothing wrong with it. It's not bad per se, but I just prefer the first person view. It's easier to play the game from first person. Just interacting with things. It suffers from that old school, like, third person, I would say, like, Morrowind problem, where even though,
Wait, Morrowind
like,
had third person?
Yeah.
I was joking.
Okay. But yeah, like, it says you're looking at this direction and you're going to interact with this thing, but you might not really. At least there's no guards that are going to kill you if you accidentally steal something off of a table. But, yeah. I don't care about the two biggest things that people were so excited for with the new update. Overall, I don't know how I'm coming off as sounding
Mildly
about how I
disappointed?
feel about it. I'm not really disappointed. I wasn't really expecting much.
Oh, so you're angry.
No, I'm not. I mean, overall, it's a solid game. It was a solid game after the last update, Atlas Rises, that added, like, the actual story to the game and the questing system and stuff like that, so that there's actually things to do if you get tired of just shooting rocks. They fixed a lot of the problems with the game and gameplay itself. They introduced God knows how many new bugs with this update. But I think that this is pretty close to the product that they were touting at launch. It took them 2 years to get there, but I will give them credit for not stopping, because they could have taken the money and just left and, had a bad reputation and everyone moved on to other studios, but they kept plucking away at it, and as long as they don't quit now and they fix a whole bunch of the bugs and the performance issues, this could bump from like a solid B to B plus game, potentially up to the A- territory if you like this sort of game. I mean, still, like I said this last time with the last update, I'm saying it with this update. If you don't like this type of game, this very, exploratory focused, very survival crafty, space Minecrafty type of game, if you don't like that, this isn't like changing the game so that you will. You still wouldn't like it. But again, if you were on the fence due to the quality or the issues or whatever with previous iterations of the game, it's a better game than it was after the last update, and the last update made it into a pretty good game. So definitely worth a $20 purchase, $25. It's up to you if you feel like. Actually, I would say if you really like this type of game, you're good for $30-35. If you're sort of interested in this type of game and you want to check it out, $10-15 I would say is a pretty good price for it. I mean, you can always wait to see if it goes on sale for a few bucks, and at that point, why the fuck not? But I don't think that you're like gonna be wasting your money if you buy this game now, as long as you're at least somewhat interested in the concept. So yeah, No Man's Sky, pretty good. Needs some performance improvements and some bug fixes, But, you know, that pretty much goes for every game nowadays.
Almost like the whole live servers thing is a very, very big piece of shit.
Yeah, something like that. Oh. So, yep, that's the games that we played this week. And it is break time. Because even though the show's only been going for, what, an hour or so?
We've been going much longer.
We've been going for... Yep, we've been going for hours. So we're going to go to the bathroom real quick. Or at least I am.
I'm not sure if I want to go in the bathroom with you.
Well, you can wait your turn.
I'm not sure if I want to go after you.
Eh.
Well, at least not without a gas mask. Because odds are you've been eating cheese. Or some sort of dairy. Because you love hurting yourself.
Not today. Although I'm still suffering from the dairy I ate on Sunday, so... We went to... okay, I'll tell this story real quick. We went to the Monkey Town Brewery, which is our local pub, and they have the best beer cheese I've ever eaten in my entire life. It's so good, I'm forgetting how to speak. And they have Irish nachos, which is corned beef, their homemade chips. What else is on there? You really can't tell anything else that's on there because it's slathered in beer cheese. Just absolutely covered in what must be like... I'm genuinely not joking. It must be a quart of beer cheese. It's so much. And we ate it. And I ate lots of it. And then also I got an order of beer cheese with my fish and chips. And ate that. And then we brought some of it home and I ate that later. So, I've been suffering for 2 days. So, time to move on to our first news story, or combination of news stories for this week. Some big games are not coming to big distributors. We had 2 games that are not going to be coming to big platforms. The first is Fallout 76. It's not going to be on Steam. And the second is Fortnite on Android is not going to use Google Play. So...
Yeah, should we talk about Fortnite first? Because that's probably the more interesting one of the two.
Yeah, we can do that. We can talk about Fortnite first.
Yeah, basically they're going to try to get around the 30% revenue share because they feel that it's disproportionate, as Tim Sweeney says. And it's a very odd thing because typically if you're using anything but Google Play, and this is even some of the bigger distributors, Amazon, Humble Bundle their own app. They also require the use of unsigned apps. And it seems to me, now maybe I'm old on this, but encouraging the teenage demographic to disable that security feature seems like it's a bad idea. Is this just I'm old and thinking of the children? Wait a minute, that sounds wrong somehow.
I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it that way, honestly. Like, that thought didn't even cross my mind. Just for me, this whole thing has been like, they're thinking, or they're assuming that, like, they're big enough that they don't need the all of the publicity and marketing that being on the front page of the Google Play Store would give them.
Yeah, well, to be fair, they're kind of right on that. I mean, Fortnite is just stupidly popular.
Yeah, with the younger demographic. I know that's a huge demographic, but they don't have the spending power that older people would have. That's always been the thing. Like, you have to be able to market something to the kids in such a way that the parents can go for it. And I suspect that there are still lots of parents that don't quite understand this whole Fortnite thing.
Yeah,
Like,
but I think that's
I think
going to be
more parents-
less. I think that's going to be less than what it would have been, 10 years ago.
That's true. That's true. But you have to imagine that they would get a boost just in general from being on the Play Store. And is that boost that they're going to lose be balanced out by also not having to give the 30% revenue share to Google? Also, I'm not 100% sure that they couldn't negotiate a smaller revenue share. Like, there's all kinds of closed door business deals that go on. And while Epic is not, Google sized, they're a big enough company.
You're saying
with a
they're
big
Epic?
enough. They're Epic sized, but they're not Google sized. They're a big enough company with enough of a backing, enough of a customer base that I could imagine that they could do some negotiating. I mean, I don't think they could get it down like way low to the teens or single digits, but I think they could get somewhere between 5 and 10% knocked off of that revenue share.
I imagine that this is not something that they're taking lightly. That they've done a lot of cost benefit analysis on this, and they see that 30% is worth the loss of at least some of their free publicity. Because think about this. All right, sure, they lose the Google Play Store, but they are still a major, major player on Android. So they're going to have all the Android, all the mobile gaming sites talking about them whenever they release a major update. Like all the PC sites talk about Fortnite's PC version. And that's not on a major platform. That's on its own thing.
Yeah.
So I'm not seeing it as that big a deficit for them. I definitely is one. But, it's also running their own servers because they already are. That's, factored into it already. So I think this is a very calculated move on them. And it's more getting people to download it and trust them. Because, it's an extra hoop to jump through. And that's the bigger thing than just being on the Play Store is, losing that one touch install. It requires a little bit more effort, and for someone that's not as tech savvy to be able to find that security feature and turn it off, I do think it's going to keep some players off, but I think it is going to help them in the long run, or it's that 30% is going to be worth more to them. So this is definitely something that's not being done just on a whim. This isn't them being dicks about it. They are being very careful about this. But, they know that they could afford to lose that free, place on the Play Store. It's just a more interesting thing that it makes me wonder if other major apps will start wondering if they could leave Google Play as well.
Yeah. I'm not sure how many apps, though, have the same sort of support, backing, influence, reach, whatever noun or adjective you want to throw in there, of Fortnite. Like, this is a cross-cultural phenomenon. In terms of like
this is
gaming,
this console generation's Minecraft.
Yeah,
I think that's fair to say at this point.
I think so. Yeah, I was actually going to compare it more to the original Wii, but that's also a good comparison to make.
Well, just software. I mean,
yeah, but just like there's an audience for this game of people who don't really play other games, and I've said it on here multiple times before, at least in general conversation. Like, people come into the clinic to meet all the time, all kinds of people that I wouldn't expect to play video games. But I have lots of gaming stuff in my office. It's a good conversation starter, talking point. And we'll get to talking about video games, and I'll ask, do you play any games? Yeah, I play Fortnite on my PC, or on my Switch, or on my Xbox, or whatever. Like, everybody plays or has played Fortnite. And I'm talking...
Oh, so that means I'm a nobody.
I'm talking older people, younger people, kids, especially kids, but... It seems to be that the older people have tried it and they don't like it. Although there's, I guess, a couple that have. But, I mean, just regardless.
You know,
that's sort of anecdotal, a very small slice of it, but...
Yeah, we're getting a little off topic here, but what the hell at this point? I think the Battle Royale genre, it may lend itself to more of a casual player, just because there's not as many rules. I mean, I realize that sounds a little odd, especially with, shooters in general are usually, at least on a technical, mechanical level, very simple. But this takes, all the, learning of maps, the different areas to go through, and it takes a lot of those barriers and removes them. It's just literally, okay, you're on this essentially flat field, for the most part. And it says, okay, if you don't want to die, go to this area, kill anybody that you see. A very, very simple game mode. And it's very easy to learn. So I think that might be part of its success. That, and it just caught on something fierce, and I'm not exactly sure why it's got so popular. If it's not just that simplicity, or if there's something else beyond it. I mean, hell, remember before PUBG came out? Was it in my discovery queue, or was it yours that we saw it and just kind of wrote it off?
I don't remember.
I remember it was in one of ours, and we had no idea what to make of it.
Yeah.
But then again, neither of us knew Player Unknown, so or at least I didn't.
Yeah. So, we'll see how this shakes out. I mean, I'm sure they're going to be fine. It's Fortnite. It's still the hottest game in town right now, so for the foreseeable future, like you said, they probably did some pretty intense cost-benefit analysis of this move and decided to go with it. And
also it allows them to be able to do what they want with the microtransactions. Because doesn't Google have a very tight restriction on that? To some degree?
I don't know, actually. I don't know. I mean, I see microtransactions all over the place, but Google does have some sort of refund system and things available, so they might have some rules for it that I'm not aware of. Because I know you can get refunded for any purchases, in-app purchases, within a certain time frame. You basically have to forfeit the app to do so, but you can, it's kind of the Steam route. You get so much time to just get a blanket refund. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they have strict rules regarding their microtransaction practices.
Yeah, this is this article that we're going to be linking to in the show notes. It's pretty much just going all on that 30% and how it's disproportionate to the cost of the services that that these stores perform. And considering most of these developers aren't Epic sized, both in the name and the general term, it looks like a lot less to Epic because they're able to run all the servers behind the scenes. To some garage developer, assuming that there's still such a thing as a garage developer these days, it's a lot more valuable. So that 30% is worth a lot more. So maybe this is just Epic being the big boy in town and not really seeing the value anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one is Fallout 76 not coming to Steam, which pretty much keeps me from doing any sort of just, impulse buy whenever it goes on deep discount. Because, not because all my games have to be on Steam, but because that Steam wallet, it's always that, few extra bucks already. But
yeah.
I think this is Activision wanting to essentially pull an EA eventually. I think they eventually want to make the Bethesda launcher, or sorry, Bethesda wanted to do an EA. Oh, sorry, I'm getting my companies kind of muddled there for a moment. But Bethesda, I think the next mainline Fallout we're not going to see on Steam either, at this rate.
I don't know about that. Maybe. Anything's possible. Anything's possible. There has been a trend over the last several years, starting with the EA and Ubisoft, and potentially now Bethesda.
Or not really Ubisoft. I mean, Ubisoft does their own thing, but they still release stuff on Steam.
Yeah, but it's completely connected to the Uplay platform. Like, the game won't launch unless you also have Uplay running, and you can open Uplay and run the game without Steam being launched. So
yeah, but that's still a little bit of a happy medium. If they have to do their own thing, at least they still offer it somewhere else on one of the other major distributors.
Yeah.
So,
but,
something. I love the side note on this. Todd Howard wants you to stop calling Fallout 76 a survival game.
I mean, I'm probably never going to play Fallout 76 anyways. The more that comes out about this game, the more I'm just like, nah, I don't want this in my life. And I'm moving more and more away from using Steam for all of my games. Like, not because, like, of any, like, specific reason or another. I'm just moving away from the Steam wallet. Like, I used to buy Steam gift cards, load them up into my Steam wallet, and that was how I bought games. But as I've gotten older, my my self-control has gotten better. So I'm spending... When I'm buying games, I'm spending more from my PayPal or credit or debit account as opposed to using the Steam wallet. I mean, I still use it. I still do trading cards. It's still a nice way to
get a few bucks.
Occasionally make a little money on a game, like run up on the right deal or the right bundle or whatever. But, just generally get a few bucks back from the purchases I make.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, during the Steam sale, I had money in my Steam wallet account, but, half of my budget was just like, yeah, I'll spend, this money, and when it's gone, it's gone. And then I don't spend money outside of that. I'm just getting a lot better about having self-control about things. I assume that's because I'm getting older and wiser. Oh,
was I not supposed to laugh at that?
Issue for me. And because of that fact, I'm more open to spending money on other platforms. Because before I was like, just keep it all in the Steam ecosystem. This is how I can make sure I'm not, impulse buying myself into oblivion. But, I'm getting older. Plus, I'm making more money. Oblivion? Plus, I'm making more money than I have in the past. I mean, it's not a ton more, but I'm making more money than I have before. So I have a little extra to spend now and then. So it's not so much of an issue. Hopefully that trend continues to increase. One day I'll have those pesky student loans paid off, and then it'll be like I'm a rich motherfucker just because I'm not having to chuck away so much. That and my house paid off. Student loans and house payments are expensive, kids. Granted, I mean, it's not like we bought a house on a whim, like we planned it out in advance, but make sure you know what you're doing.
Before you took it off the Google Play Store?
Yeah, before I took it off the Google Play Store. That 30% was just too much. It's just too much.
The mortgage is too damn high.
I would happily give the Google Play Store 30% of my mortgage. That's... what's 30% of $800 a month? 400, 250. That's like $250 a month. 25. It's $3,000 a year that I would get back if the Google Play Store would just take 30% of my mortgage.
Take my mortgage, please.
Yes, please. I'll put an app on the store for you. I'll develop one. If you take 30% of my mortgage. But
the pocket therapist who just asked, how do you feel about that?
How does that make you feel? Maybe you should lie down.
Now take off your pants.
Have you journaled about your experiences today? Perhaps you should consider investing this energy in a hobby. Remember to get plenty of sunlight and social interaction. to ensure that your
Says
body
Mr.
remains
Turtle.
as balanced as possible. Yeah, I hate sunlight and social interaction.
I hate sunshines.
I hate the sun. Can't wait for winter when it gets dark early and stays dark longer into the morning.
Well, for me, it's more the humidity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just can bust anyway, so.
So, anyways, yeah, Fallout not coming to Steam, on the Bethesda launcher.
Yeah, for me, well, I was just going to say that it's what I usually pick up is on Steam anyway, because, well, I don't buy a lot of Ubisoft stuff. Bethesda stuff is just starting to make this transition. Activision stuff, Blizzard stuff. I have to say I've been tempted a little bit watching some StarCraft, but I realized that there's no way in hell. I'm too old.
Yeah.
And EA, once again, a couple of their little indie titles, but that's about it. So, there's just not been that, temptation for me, so. Plus, I have a few things to play.
Yeah, just a few, Alrighty. Our next news topic. Star Citizen fans raise pay-to-win objections over the removal of in-game currency stockpiling cap.
Yeah, I'm going to call bullshit on this. I mean, they're just now raising objections.
Yeah. Yeah.
Star Citizen feels like it's just going to be a pot of whales, and that's it.
Star Citizen is the 21st century version of vaporware.
I'm not going to call it vaporware. I think it will eventually come out, and it won't be as grand as most people think it will be that's supporting this game. But then again, I doubt it would be anyway. But this is going to be the Spore issue, where they overpromise, they've overdeveloped, and it just falls flat because they focused on things that the general gaming public didn't want. But the source of this, as far as I could tell, as they've gone through various updates, they've removed items, and to be able to not make that a complete dick move, they allow you to essentially trade those items in for the UEC, which is their in-game currency, or one of the currencies, I should say. Now, I'm taking all this from third-party stuff, so I could be completely off base, by the way. So, yeah. But anyway, they removed the cap for this currency, which means that people that stockpiled all this stuff could essentially melt down all their old items and get oodles and oodles and oodles of money. Even though there is a 25,000 credit cap per day, it still, is going to be rolling over and over and over and over. And the people that bought in early are able to do this over and over and over again, to the point that, they're Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah. I always thought that system was really stupid when they first announced it. It never made any sense to me.
Be able to melt down stuff like that, or?
No, their whole currency cap system, this whole thing is just a convoluted mess. It's always been a convoluted mess.
Are we talking about this currency system or Star Citizen? I almost call it No Man's Sky, but it's about the same thing.
It's going to be the No Man's Sky of 2156 when it releases.
Into early access.
It might actually be the next. It's got good potential to be the next one of these games. The next Spore, the next No Man's Sky, the next whatever is Star Citizen.
Now the question is it going to be Spore or No Man's Sky, where they release it and actually patch it into a decent state, or just release it, add a couple of expansions and call it a day, and then go work on a crummy sequel that nobody bought?
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah, but it does.
It still doesn't work on my machine. It still won't launch and run. I mean, that's $40 I flushed down the toilet. Like, oh god,
5 years ago.
I was living in my apartment still before our last house. So that was, 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yes.
I didn't support it when it was on Kickstarter, but it was after that when they first started selling the packs for like $30 or $40.
Yeah, I remember a few of the space game YouTubers, particularly Scott Manley, hard selling this game for a while. Especially whenever they would do the timed packages, and it's only $100 and you'll get this ship. And I just looked at that and thought, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I just don't see how the economy of this game is going to function in the slightest when people are able to buy in at such ridiculous prices and get, a good chunk of the ships in the game. And when the modules come in and they are literally pay to win. I mean, not this accusation where the best racing ship, the best mining ship, the best fighters are all locked behind a paywall. How the fuck has it not been called pay to win before?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I'm interested in is the single player portion of the game. Whatever, 76 or whatever, module 40, whatever. It's got a number. It's a
90210.
Whatever. Yeah, that's the only part that I'm interested in. And that's not the part that they're developing. Because, of course it's not. Because that's not what's going to make them all the fucking money in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would be interested in some sort of single-player free-roaming mode. But I think that they said that wasn't going to be the case after the campaign anymore. And they were throwing all of those resources into its online.
So, in other words, they're going a GTA 5 where they're scrapping the single-player development to fund the multiplayer?
Yeah. And at the time, I was playing EVE Online, and I was like, well, I don't need this. I've got EVE Online. But I mean, it's way too late to get my money back at that point. Who knows? When it comes out,
your son will love it when he's an old man.
Yeah, my kid will love it when he's an old man. I'm going to will it to him.
Into King, I'll leave my starship.
Yeah.
Dingus. And it's too late to rename it.
Oh.
But they did release a statement. Cloud Imperium released a statement about the rationale behind the cap removal. Removing the Voyager Direct meant we had to rebalance the economy. And with it, a rebalance, we wanted to offer backers the ability to melt past item purchases made at older, unbalanced prices back to UEC to allow them to spend them on buying items in the game at the new rebalanced prices. Without removing the cap, backers who were melting and reapplying funds would eclipse the overall UEC cap and be locked into their previously purchased items. So we removed the cap, but kept the daily cap in place to give our backers options and flexibility. This was purely a development/platform decision and has nothing to do with marketing or sales, and was made not to disadvantage people that had supported us over the years. There has been the case since the release of 3.2 on June 30th that everyone seemed pretty happy with this flexibility and as being able to melt their items that were previously purchased on Voyager Direct has been a long-term request from our community. So it's been a bit surprising to see some people paint this as an issue now, especially considering the context of the change and the general happiness of our community has had with it when it was first rolled out. But hey, it's the internet and people have to complain about something. That's in their official statement, by the way.
Of course it is.
Oh, no.
Because they don't give two shits.
No. This is the portion of the statement that I really wanted to read. This is from the article, but the full statement, the rather long-winded and bullshit-laden one, will be in the show notes. Another thought. Repay to win. What is win in Star Citizen? We have challenges in gameplay for everything from solo players, well, until they scrap solo stuff, with just an Aurora to a huge org crewing an Idris. We're making a space sim. I don't even know what we would qualify as win. That's the whole idea. You play how you want to play and should be able to have fun in a number of ways, just like real life. You break out your credit card. Even editorializing this, it's still not as bullshit, huh?
Yeah.
There are multiple paths, and your own success is really measured on a personal level. Until you get beaten by a whale. Further, there will be nothing in the game that you can only be purchased with money. You can't be better. You can't buy better stats or skill. We don't sell magic kill bullets yet. And everything that you can purchase with real money, like ships or UEC, can be earned via gameplay. Oh, but boy, will that be a hell of a grind, won't it?
Yeah, it's not like we haven't seen this before.
By allowing players to purchase ships with a limited amount of UEC, we're just allowing people that want to support the project to a way to do it. It's expensive to build a game of this scope, especially with us in management. It's expensive to run the servers, especially how we run them, that people play on, while not preventing the person that has only bought the basic game package from playing, earning, and upgrading their equipment and competing with people that have spent more than them. Every persistent online game has inequality in starting assets, and even if there's no ability to purchase, as people start their game careers at different times, if you join EVE or WoW right now, you don't have the experience, stats, or assets that someone has been playing for years. We don't see the issue with some people starting Star Citizen with different equipment, as long as everybody gets the opportunity to earn everything via gameplay, which they will. Fuck you! Fuck you and the starship you flew in on.
I see what you did there. I like it. Also, I would consider it a win state if I could just launch the fucking game. That would be a win for me if it just worked. But it doesn't.
I mean, here's the thing, is that they're talking about there's no win state because it's an MMO, essentially. But an MMO is chock full of win states. Every quest is a win state. Every mining situation is a win state. Every race is a win state. And being able to just jump past all the progress, well, there's the saying that I've seen several of the bigger YouTubers say, and a lot of people say online, if you offer the option to skip the grind, to skip playing the game, your game is not very fucking fun to begin with.
Yeah.
And just the tone. I mean, I didn't editorialize that much. There's just a certain snottiness to that. Just almost talking down from the tower, you know?
Yeah.
It feels like this game has gotten to the point where its fan base, its rabid supporting fan base, well, I'm not sure if I could say corrupted Chris Rogers, is it? But more, it's kind of made him even more snotty, because I do believe he's had a bit of an ego to begin with, if memory serves correctly. It's just, things have gotten crazy.
Yeah. I've got something in my throat.
Oh, well, what do you got in your throat?
Nothing fun, unfortunately.
Do you want something?
Yeah, I'm gonna grab one of my cough drops here and see if that helps. I had to mute twice while you were talking. There's gonna be some fun editing on my end.
Yeah, it's just the fact that they can release a press statement at all like that, I think is very telling of what the game is going to end up being like, in 22-17. A couple of years before Half-Life 3 comes out.
Yeah.
And the fact that they mentioned magic kill bullets, that more tells me that they have it on their mind, doesn't it?
Yeah, they've thought about it.
And they said they're not doing it, but yeah, just, and I did editorialize yet, but I can't be the only one thinking that.
Yeah, after I saw that, just like a couple of quotes from it, I was like, man, they're being
dicks.
They're being being very snarky.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like I was writing the press release. Oh, yeah. I have little faith in No Man's Sky. Damn it, I did it again. I think it's going to release in a state like No Man's Sky did, where they've promised so much, but eventually the money's going to run out. So, Star Citizen, I think, I'm just waiting for it to flop at this point. I don't want it to because it looks like a very interesting game, but I have little faith in them. But then again, when they're selling $30,000 worth of ships, and the fact that you couldn't see it until you spend X amount of money, tells me exactly where their priorities are. This is a fun generator. For what? I don't know. I'm pretty sure he wants to take over the world. That's my goal on this. Or, that's my, that's what I think his goal is on this. Because I don't want to take over the world. That's way too much trouble. Things are too shitty to fix at this point.
Yeah. It'd be too much effort.
Yeah.
Just launch us into the sun and start over.
Do the entire site from orbit? Only way to be sure?
Yep.
But anything else to really talk about this outside of, they seem like condescending dicks on this. And just trying to, this seems like a press release that EA would put out.
Or Wendy's.
Yeah, but
Wendy's does this snarky bullshit all the time.
Yeah, but they're fun snarky bullshit.
I don't think so. I think they just get away from it because they were one of the first big companies to do it.
True.
All right. Well, let's move it on to the next thing. We've got a couple of news topics related to Steam. The first one in the list is that Steam flash sales are... Okay, are they rumored or are they confirmed? Because I saw one... This article says they are, and I saw one news articles that said they were rumored to be coming back.
Well, the article itself says Steam sales are reportedly on their... Or Steam flash sales are reportedly on their way back. So they just rebooted it from the overall title, but still have it in the body. Essentially, the person behind Valve News Network noticed a string in... trying to see if this was on the store itself. But they found that there was this set of code that said flash sale 6 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours, offers ends, and it has the timer. So this points to the ability that the flash sale may be returning, which is an interesting thing, particularly with how the Steam platform has evolved without it, and how this last few Steam sales, they felt a little lackluster, I mean, to be perfectly honest. I'm not sure if it's just the lack of sales or if it's just, I have what I want, but it's from the translation server. Okay, so I just saw it in this. So it's a set of strings in the translation server that's being translated to other languages.
Yeah.
That points to the possibility that the flash sales are coming back. But my big problem with the flash sales, especially if they're short, like 6 hours, is notification, because especially during a major sale, their emails are delayed like hell.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I'm actually somewhat excited that the flash sales may be coming back. Granted, that does bring back the whole, the flow chart of, the Steam sale. Don't buy stuff on the first day. Wait to see if there's a sale, that sort of thing. But the fact that there's no real good notification, even the Steam app is tied directly to the email, which is irritating as hell. And even the app doesn't say what's on sale. They just say, hey, something's on your wish list is on sale. Good luck finding it.
Yeah. I never liked the flash sales.
I just found them interesting. Something to check out every so often.
Yeah, I didn't. I never liked that. Because what it is it's a psychological manipulation tactic.
Yeah, true.
And sure, the flash sale might have a better discount. It could even potentially be a much larger discount. So there could be a payoff for it. But basically what you're doing is you're keeping someone returning repeatedly to your site, and the more you expose them to it, the more likely they are to purchase something. And that's what the flash sales have always been about. And so not having them is much more consumer friendly, even if occasionally you would have gotten a much better deal from a flash sale. Statistically, you're more likely to spend less money without the presence of the flash sale. So it's a more consumer friendly thing to not have them.
Makes you wonder why they haven't brought them back sooner then.
Yeah, there's some speculation that I read that it's connected to the second Steam news topic, which, just to throw it out there and we can sort of work them back and forth, is that they're experiencing the largest dip in active users for the summer ever? Like their largest ever dip in active users across the summer?
Well, they've lost about 2 million and some change since last summer.
Right. And they're not hurting. Their numbers are up overall, but they always experience a dip during the summer. People go on vacation or, are doing other activities. So they're inside playing video games less as a whole, but they've had a much larger dip this year, percentage-wise, compared to previous years. So, some people are attributing them bringing the flash sale back to this because in their minds, or the speculation that I've seen is that Steam is somewhat attributing this to the fact that their sales aren't as flashy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Flash sales, flashy. But they're not as exciting anymore, and so they're not getting the numbers in for the summer sale, so people aren't playing their new games. There's several theories related to that. I'd say it's the other one I've seen of things.
The other major theory I've seen is the
Fortnite.
Yeah, Fortnite and the fall of PUBG. Because I'm sitting here looking at PUBG's player numbers, and they had they talked about last year, June, July. So in June 2017, they had a 30% growth over May, which brought them up to just over 250,000. July, another 64%. August, 69%. September, another 69%. October, another 64%. November, another 22%. December, another 7%. January, another 10%. Then February is a loss of 12%. March is a loss of 6%. April, a loss of 14%. May, a loss of 20%. June, a loss of 8%. In July, a loss of 13%, almost 14%. And the last 30 days is down a percentage and a half, losing 12,000 players. They've gone from a peak in January of 3.2 million to a peak in the last 30 days of 1.3. So I know it's not going to be just PUBG, but that is a hell of a drop. And a fair amount of PUBG players were PUBG players. They were not playing other games. Or they may have been only playing PUBG and they went to Fortnite, or they went to another one of the Battle Royale games. So, that is a very likely scenario. or it may be a combination of this. The fact that has there been any major releases in the last year or so? Or I'm talking about just huge releases. Because I'm struggling to think of any major AAA releases on Steam this year so far.
I can't. Far Cry? I guess that's probably the biggest AAA release that I can think of for this year. Far Cry 5 on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the stuff that comes to mind would have actually been last year's releases.
Well, let's go. Thankfully, because we just had the summer sale, we have the top sellers. So, granted, this is going to be revenue, but they're platinum sellers. The top, whatever percentage. Rainbow Six Siege, GTA 5, Warhammer 2 Vermintide, or Warhammer Vermintide 2. Sorry, let's get that correct. Dota 2, Counter-Strike Go, Civ 6, Far Cry 5, PUBG, Jurassic World Evolution, Rocket League, Warframe, and Kingdom Come Deliverance. That's their platinum sellers.
Yeah.
And most of those are older games.
Yeah. I mean, I think most people who are PC gamers either only play a couple of titles or are like us and typically buy games months, years after they're out when they're on sale.
Mm-hmm.
And when you've got better hardware to play them to their fullest,
Yeah, I'm just looking down the list. Divinity, Original Sin 2. I'm trying to pick out newer games. Assassin's Creed Origin, even though that's not this year, that's close enough. The Witcher 3 is a couple years old now, isn't it? Yeah, 2015.
Yeah.
Subnautica had its release, but it was early access for quite a while. Yeah, a lot of these are older games. So it may just be, a combination of PUBG, Fortnite, switching of power. Not any major releases so far this year. Granted, this may be not quite fair, but I would think a major AAA release would be able to at least hit the bronze,
Yeah.
Call of Duty World War II. That's the latest Call of Duty, isn't it? Just I'm doubly checking here. Let's see. Yes, it is. So, okay, that's in the bronze. So there we go. Even though that's rated poorly. Dark Souls Remastered. Even though that was given to anybody that had the original Dark Souls. Shadow of War. Oh boy, that got some publicity. And not in a good way.
Yeah.
So there are a few here, but nothing I would say that was record setting,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely not.
NBA 2K18. Vampire, there you go. There's one that actually was well received. Somewhat.
Yeah, but Vampire's not a AAA release.
Yeah, it's more AA. But yeah, I'm picking and choosing from a very small list here. So it may just be some rather disappointing releases as well. Not bringing the gamers back.
Yeah.
Or a shifting of to other platforms. GOG, the fact that EA is doing their own thing. You mentioned Ubisoft already. Ubisoft doing their own thing. So if you're interested in the Ubisoft's open world stuff, there you go. So maybe it's just a combination of things.
Yeah, I mean it
or it's just a good summer for people to get away.
Yeah, maybe so. Hard to know for sure at this point. I mean, it's got to be a combination of things. Like, just, logically thinking through, it seems unlikely that any one thing would cause them
I'm just
or
looking.
cause it, but
I'm just looking at Steam's top sellers or top players right now, seeing where the player base is. Like Warframe is, it has its roller coaster, but then again, Warframe has a larger kind of roller coaster content. Counter-Strike Go had from the beginning of the year 3 months where it lost player base, but quickly regained most of that. Had 1 month that it lost 18%, but then another 9. So it's not quite back up to where it was, but there is that dip from March from 672,000 to 420,000. So there's a good dip as well. No Man's Sky, it seemed to pick up a bit of a player base. It's in July it went up 1,305%. Just a little bit, but right?
yeah, just a little bit.
So yeah, it looks like there's been pretty much systemic here. Wow, even Stardew Valley, which I would have thought would have seen a bigger uptick due to the multiplayer release. It went from beginning of the year 20,000. It is up 7,000 at 27,000 right now, but it had losing months all year until May when the multiplayer beta was released. So yeah, maybe this isn't. Yeah, this is just a combination of symptoms here. But
Yeah.
hopefully, it's interesting.
Yeah. All right. Did we do a good job on those two? I think we kind of wandered off into the weeds a couple of times, as we do.
Well, if they don't like us
Did you
wandering
just
off,
launch? Oh, Steam Idler. I was gonna say, why are you playing Galactic Civilizations 3?
because I'm idling cards off of it.
Nice.
I got it for
have
free, by
that.
the way.
We should play that sometime. I purchased it many moons ago.
I got it for the psychological trick of going to chrono.gg and getting coins from there.
Nice. We should play a game of
but
that
honestly,
at some point.
Yes, I realize it's a psychological trick, but I also follow their Twitter, so I get that anyway. So I may as well get the coins and get a free game out of it every so often.
Yeah.
Co-op Galactic Civilizations 3. Don't have to record it, or at least yet.
Hell yeah, we should do that. Later. Because right now, we're going to go talk about Elon Musk adding Atari Classics to Tesla software, and he wants some original games for car displays. This was just a weird one that we were like, okay, why not? We can talk about this for a minute.
Yeah, I sure hope that it requires the car to be stopped to play these games.
Yeah.
Because, well, you mentioned people driving cars. There are some stupid motherfuckers out there.
Yeah, doing ridiculous stuff, particularly in the Tesla with its autopilot or
when it's
whether
really
it keeps itself between the lines.
Yeah.
Can do some basic road following.
Yeah, and people hear autopilot. Well, it's just like Star Trek. It's like Johnny Cab out of Total Recall. And then it turns out to be just as deadly.
Yeah.
But he wants to bring, or is bringing, Atari Classics. I just saw the list here. Tempest, Missile Command, and Pole Position. With pole position actually be controlled by the steering wheel. So I really hope that's parked. But
yeah,
with you have to almost design around the lowest common denominator, which is sad. Have to actually lock out these games. Because if you haven't seen it, go to Reddit/idiots in cars.
Yes, this is one of my new favorite subreddits that you showed me last week at some point.
Yeah, there's just some astonishing things people do. And it wouldn't surprise me to see someone try to play pole position with the steering wheel while driving if it's not actually locked out. But him wanting to do original games as well, I'm not sure what I think about this. You know, it's interesting, it's kind of neat, but it's also, he does some weird shit.
Yeah. There's already some fun and silly stuff in the last couple of years models of Tesla. Probably because, I mean, they get updates just like any other piece of modern technology. They might be in all of them. But anyways, like, it's got like a party mode where when it's in park, it'll play Ode to Joy over the stereo, and the doors and windows will like go up and down, and the lights will blink, and has like a party, and you can... And
you discover that flashing lights give you a seizure?
Yeah. You can turn the GPS so that it's Mars instead of Earth, and like all the town and roads are still on there, but instead of it being, you know, like the Google Earth view of the planet, it looks like Mars. That's pretty cute.
Then you have to swerve because the Tesla comes from orbit.
It's got like an art or a drawing mode on the tablet, where you can draw pictures and stuff.
And let's face it, if you had one, you'd just be drawing dicks all the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would definitely just draw dicks. That's the best thing to do, is draw dicks. But it's got some other little silly stuff in there too, like that. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they did this, but also, yeah, they would have to make it so that you could only play the games while in park or something like that. Because there would be people who would play driving down the road, cause accidents, and die. Your car has to be 100% fully autonomous before you can play games and drive at the same time. Yeah. At least safely.
What do you think of the self-driving car, just in general?
Oh, I can't wait. Self-driving cars are already better than people at driving. Like, there's it's several years old now, but an old CGP Grey video where he talks about automation and things. And the self-driving car is one of the big focuses of the video. And basically his point is, like, they don't have to be perfect. They just have to be better than you. And they already are. Like, the only...
Yeah, what was it? The only accidents the Google self-driving cars, test cars have been in, are when people have run into them.
Yeah, or I think there have been 3 accidents with Google self-driving cars. 2 of them, the cars were hit by other people, and one of them, an actual person was driving the car, and he crashed it. Like, the self-driving portion has never had an accident on the open road. So...
Yeah, the only thing that I'm leery of with self-driving cars is that maps have to be up to date, and where I live, maps are a little iffy in places. Let's put it this way. All right. At one point, because of how some of the coal mines near where I live are, Google directions kept wanting to go through several coal mining jobs to get to the interstate.
Nice.
And because I'm from here, I could look at that and think, no, that would be stupid and illegal. Or they also suggest, because of just, I guess, waiting on how the directions are set up, go through some questionable areas. Like there's this one fairly popular, essentially shortcut where I live, where it's this dirt road. It's essentially a 1-lane road. But because so many people go on it with the GPS, it's considered, I guess, a valuable route. And someone that isn't from this area goes on that road is a terrible, 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 terrible idea, because there's several places on that road where if you go off of it, you die. I mean, it drops 50 feet directly onto railroad tracks, you are fucking dead. And someone from out of state going on that road, especially since it looks fairly safe if you don't know better, will just go right off of it because they'll go onto this rather fast S turn into this hard left and just sail right off the cliff. And that's the only thing that has me really leery about self-driving cars. But then again, I'm in a odd situation where I'm out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
But what I do find interesting about self-driving cars is the concept that they could essentially be taxis, where you don't have to own the car. You know, you could have essentially rent the car for the day and have it do its own thing.
Mm-hmm. Or just come pick you up when you need it and drop you off,
or even have it be essentially a taxi where there's a car in the area that's available whenever you need to ride. You go it takes you to wherever and drops you off, and then it goes back into service.
Yeah, I mean, there's already car services that exist to do that.
Yeah, they're called taxis.
Well, yes, but I mean, like, they're in several big cities, and it's just like an app that you get on your phone, and you create an account and sign in, and basically just like put money on your account. And whenever you need a car, the app tells you where the nearest car is to you. You go over to it and you like scan a thing, and then the GPS in the car, like, it links to you, and you can rent it for as long as you want to and need to, and then you just take it back and drop it off when you're done and scan out. And you're just charged for whatever you're renting that car for the day. It would be the same sort of idea, but instead of you having to go pick up the car and drive it around, the car just comes to you and takes you where you need to go.
Yeah, and you don't even have to park it afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, I live kind of in like a gray area. There's certain places around here where that a self-driving car would probably do pretty well, but there's certain places around here where it wouldn't. So I'm not sure at this point in time if I would buy one for myself or fully rely on like the service of a self-driving car like that. But in the next decade or so, I could see myself, us, like, we own 2 cars, maybe drop down to just 1 car and then use like that service if we ever needed additional, transportation or whatever. It could save tons of money because you wouldn't be paying any of the overhead for vehicle maintenance or for registration and taxes and all that jazz. So like your per trip cost might be a little bit higher, but overall you'd be saving a lot of money, I think. I don't know. I wish that I lived in a more built up area. I do live in a more built up area than I used to, but we should have taken one more step towards a city in terms of where we live. Although, cost of living, yada yada, we don't need to get into a discussion about economics and cost of living and things like that. But yeah, I'm all for self-driving cars. I like driving. I enjoy driving. I've owned sports cars for most of my life. I enjoy going to the track and
going vroom?
Things like that. Yeah, I'm,
You're pro vroom.
I'm pro vroom. I'm one step away from a gearhead because I don't like to do tons of that work by myself. I don't like to get dirty. I'm lazy. It's time consuming.
Get dirty. You are dirty.
But like I'm right there at it. But especially as I get older, I want to be able to do other shit while I'm having to commute to work or going places and doing things. Like, I listen to podcasts, I listen to the news, I make the best use of my time as possible when I'm like commuting every day, but I'd love to have that time to do other stuff. Like, sure, I'd still be commuting to and from work, but instead of having to drive, I could be
jerking off,
doing something else. Yeah, I could be jerking off in the morning, or I could take a nap. I could get a little nap on the way to work, play some video games on my laptop or whatever every day on the way to and from work. Add a little bit of extra leisure time back into my life. Edit a podcast. I could do that.
Well, you could do that right now, but it's not advised.
You're right. I could. I have let the render run a few times because I've got I don't have any built-in like power outlets, but I've got a power converter that.
What, you went to Mosley Station?
Yeah, I went to Toshi Station and got some power converters. But no, I've just got a power converter. It plugs into my cigarette lighter in my car, and I can plug my laptop up to it because my battery life isn't super great on my laptop. And I've rendered the podcast before while driving home from the office. Like, I'll get it all edited and saved, and then start the render and just carry my laptop out to my car and set it in the seat. And it's done by the time I get home.
And you don't even have to turn the heater on your car.
No, I don't. No, I don't. I don't have to do that anyways, with it being 110 degrees on my way home from work.
Heat index or actual temperature?
No, heat index. Actual temperature was like 96 or 97, which is still too fucking hot.
Yeah.
I'm like a 62 degrees kind of person. Like, when it's like 62 degrees outside, perfectly happy. So, I'm getting on up there to close to twice what my ideal temperature is. And I'm fat, so that makes it worse.
Yeah, you're just laying on the floor of your office, buck naked, covered in sweat.
Thankfully, the air conditioner is not broken. If it ever breaks, I'm gonna melt. But all right, let's move it on to Community Corner.
Yeah, we didn't have any.
You said we had a couple of tweets.
Yeah, we had no emails, so if you wish to remedy that, vglpodcast@gmail.com. But we did have a few tweets, which is VGL Podcast on the Twitter as well. Jim sent us an article that I only saw just before recording, saying this is a good article on VR development. We are saving that for next week, though, because it's rather lengthy. And we want to give it justice and actually sit down and be able to read it. And we have a few from Kyle. First of all, boobies! Woohoo! And he sent us a pair of boobies. Unfortunately, not the fun kind. More the aviary kind. And also, Kyle set up a poll. Hey, VGL community. A quick Twitter poll. How many of you out there would consider a snake as a pet? Leave your my poll options aren't fully express your feelings on this subject. And I believe his poll finally said no by 60%, with yes snake emoji getting 40%. And that was the only two that got any votes. And he also said a few quick pics of our corn snake to go along with the poll. So if you see a snake, well, it's right there somewhere on the Twitters. And that was really all the tweets we got. So once again, VGL Podcast on Twitter.
Woohoo. So, Discovery Queue or no Discovery Queue?
Well, we got plenty of time, unless you really get going.
It's getting close to midnight. That's when I like to start wrapping up. So yeah, we can run through it real quick.
Yeah, which means I need to head over while you go hit the music.
Right. Doobly-doo for Discovery Queue.
Yeah, and I see something immediately.
I don't even have Steam open.
That is interesting. It's a very mixed game. It's on early access, but I need to add this. The Swordsman X. Early access open world samurai game? The Swordsman X is an adrenaline-fueled, free-roaming, competitive it's a battle royale game. I was so excited when I saw, a samurai game. But, melee battle royale could be interesting.
It could be. It is something that, as far as I'm aware, we haven't seen in the Battle Royale genre
The Cunning,
before.
or The Calling. It was essentially Battle Royale before Battle Royale really became big, and it was mostly melee. But yeah, I was so excited, then I started reading the description, but I'll leave it in just for the hell of it. It doesn't look that bad. It makes me wonder what the problems is. Is it just the player base? It looks like maybe the player base and there's not enough servers. I need to go check the player counts on this. Because... no, that wouldn't be it. I just want to see what the player counts are, because I'm not on my Chrome version, so... I'm not finding it, which isn't a good sign.
What?
On Steam charts.
Swordsman. 1,500 playing now.
Okay, well, I just was able to
4,000.
find it real quick. So
Today's peak.
that's not great for a Battle Royale game.
Today's peak was its all-time peak, though.
Well,
So,
did it just release, or...
July 27th, so it's not been out long.
yeah, it looks like people are having loading issues on it. And it looks like there may not be a US server. And considering the kanji, it's probably a Chinese or a Japanese game.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about the languages to be able to differentiate one from the other.
Me neither. So I got one. Prehistoric Kingdom. This looks like, I mean, it's a dinosaur park theme park management simulator thing. It's got a demo, but it doesn't have a release date announced, nor does it say anything about early access.
So essentially, this is Jurassic Park again, with maybe a little bit more of a management aspect to it from the looks of it. Maybe.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, that icon looks so Jurassic Park at first, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. Just looking at the various screenshots and the couple of trailers, it looks like there's more of a management aspect.
Which won't hurt my feelings at one bit.
Although this looks very early in development. I mean, sure, they could plop it up on early access at any point in time, and you know, but I mean, this does not look like it's very far along at all.
Well, all the trailers have says this is pre-alpha footage.
Oh, 8/16/17 available on Steam. Maybe that's a demo?
Or they just didn't bother to put a release date.
Yeah. Dunno.
So, I got another one.
Okay.
Overcooked 2.
Oh, nice.
Overcooked was a couch co-op cooking game where you have to work together to be able to cook various meals. Overcooked 2, they're taking on the most requested suggestion, online co-op.
Okay.
So this is going to be on the docket of eventually to pick up. I mean, it looks silly. It looks like a lot of fun. It's more balanced around 4-player co-op, though. So, you know, we may have to find friends.
Kyle. Cube.
It is rather expensive, though. $25. Whew. But yeah, online co-op. I mean, that's the biggest thing. It's essentially Overcooked. If you've seen it before, it's just mayhem, but in the fun way. Not a lot more to say on that one, to be honest. Sorry, I kind of paused there because I hear something in the background, but I'm not sure what it is. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just going through.
I hear like a hum.
Oh.
That's
probably my... You hear a hum outside?
Yeah.
Oh. Don't know.
I took my headset on to double check.
But I got a second dinosaur theme park game.
Gee, I wonder why it's giving you dinosaur games now.
Yeah, I wonder why. Parkasaurus. This is cutesy, going a cartoony route. At first glance, it looks like it could be some kind of mobile port.
Well, I'm adding one for
see
you.
If there's... I'm looking to see if there's... Okay, let me look at this trailer. Oh, this does not look good. Not even the art. It's not that. That's cute, but this looks...
Wow.
Real janky.
That looks like... wow. Roller Coaster Tycoon, as in the original, looked better than this.
Yeah.
It looks so overly saturated.
Yeah. Available summer 2018.
Let's see, it's from... I'm heading to their... the developers page to...
Watch Bear?
Yeah. I do believe the neighbor is vacuuming at midnight. And that's what I'm hearing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a vacuum. Sorry, I've been sitting here trying to figure out what that is.
Yep, this is not a mobile game.
Yeah.
It's PC only. At least at this point.
I mean, it could end up being alright. The thing is... Oh, wow. Oh, they put hats and sunglasses on the dinosaurs. Sold. Because hats.
Yeah, I mean, it could be good. It could be, but it looks real bad.
But it could also be pre-alpha stuff as well. It could be placeholder stuff. It's hard to say, especially with early access these days. So... I got one that I'm dedicating to you.
Okay.
Nicoparia Extra. Visual novel.
I've seen several of the Nicopora games.
Well, this is the newest one out. It came out just a couple weeks ago. I mean, it's cutesy, a little bit perverted, cat girls visual novel. I mean, that's all you really need to know about that one.
Absolutely.
I'm pretty sure they also sell the nudie patch on this.
Excellent.
No, as in you have to pay extra for it.
Oh. Not excellent. Nudity. Excellent. Paying for my nudity? Nah.
Did you get anything else?
No, my queue's done.
I'm only...
I had a whole bunch of...
I'm only halfway through.
And then I also got that Samurai or Ninja Battle Royale game, but you had already found it, or already had it, so I skipped by it.
Yeah, I was so excited about that. Because that's something that you don't see too often. I mean, you see them occasionally, but... Okay, so Trailblazers. This essentially looks like F-Zero. With a different skin, of course, but it's the same basic idea, going stupid fast. It looks like, well, they said it requires a controller to play, which, honestly, with this game, or if it's anything with how it looks, don't blame them on that. I don't hold that against them. But co-op racing game. Yeah, pretty much just F-Zero. Not a lot to say there, unless you have something.
No, I don't think so.
Let's see. Newest F1 game. No, thank you. Nope. Hell no. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Oh, I forgot they relaunched that. I'm going to put this on my list, but it's probably going to be in vain of your warning against. Remember the Defiance MMO?
Yeah.
They relaunched it. And from everything that I've heard, they've made it worse. They screwed up the...
Mostly negative.
Yeah, which is impressive, huh? Wiped some progression. They've screwed up some things. Broke some things. Let's see. The MMO... I'm going to read off one of the reviews. The MMO based on a short-lived sci-fi original series to be the next one on the block to get the remastered treatment. Unfortunately, no one seems to have told Tryon that a remaster needs to, at the very least, be as good as the original. So yeah, this is, it is free to play. So yeah, you're just wasting your time at worst. But the fact that it's mostly negative is impressive. And I'm on my last one. Oh damn! I'm getting a lot of racing games, by the way.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I'm done. I got a lot of really crappy racing games on the tail end of mine. So that is the Discovery queue. And once again, I end up getting a bunch more. Do you want to borrow Swordman X?
No, it's fine.
I was so excited about that. Oh, I feel so bait and switched. I feel so used. But to be honest, you would have probably put it on yours, right? Because you probably didn't see the Battle Royale at the first anyway.
Yeah.
I feel unclean. More so than a usual Tuesday night.
I'll give you some lovin's. You'll feel all better.
That made me feel worse.
So, moving on to the portion of the podcast then where I go first. If you want to see my stuff over on the YouTubes, you can do so by searching for Gaming Psychologist. We are going to start putting up our Spin Tires Mudrunner series next week, right? That's what we said. So, yeah. What day are we going to go for?
I was thinking our usual Wednesday, Saturday.
Sweet.
Noon Eastern time.
Can do. So yeah, next weekend you will see the first of our
next weekend they'll see the second.
I said next week.
You said next weekend.
Okay. It doesn't really matter.
At least I thought you said next weekend. I could be wrong.
I'm
sitting here listening to the vacuum.
Next Wednesday, you'll see the first on my channel. Which was the first one that we did? The Bog? Is that the first level in the list?
I would have to bring up my list of episodes because I do have them named.
I think that's the first one.
Ready to Process, Spin Tires Runner, the Bog, then the Island, Seashore. Then we get to the fun ones.
Yeah. So you'll see that as well as the podcast or the weekly podcast YouTube video. I've got a new idea cooking that I'm going to do some testing on. And yes, cooking is involved.
Oh,
actually.
no.
Based on our little secret, I've got an idea. Like, it's been ruminating
oh, no.
this whole recording time. So we'll see. I might do some testing on it. But I never make promises because I don't know if I'll be able to keep them. I pretty much just do stuff that I find fun.
You don't have plans. You just do things.
Indeed. If you want to follow me on Twitter, where I got into some very interesting Twitter discussions over the weekend, which I have thus far had self-control and not mentioned on the podcast. But, some third wave feminists with an agenda got into. You know what? If you want to find out, just go check it out on my Twitter account. It's too lengthy and complicated to explain. And I do want to go to bed tonight at some point. So just head on over to Twitter. Look me up at JMA4707. You can follow me. There's a pretty massive thread or discussion that goes on for a couple of days before I finally just gave up, like, trying to be reasonable. And
well, see, that was your failing. You tried to reason with it.
I got quite a few Twitter followers though, and there were plenty of people who were on my side or at least like neutral. Like, you know what? There's good points being made by both groups of people. Let's just bring it down a little bit and talk about this. And all of those people followed me on Twitter. So hello, new Twitter followers. If you also happen to find your way over to the podcast, I know I mentioned it to a couple of you.
Yeah, if so, I'm sorry.
But yeah, if you want to find out what went down, just go on over and browse through my tweets from the weekend. I guess at the time of release of this episode last weekend. And then if you want to know in more detail the context of the situation, I don't mind to talk about it. But, I mean, it would take me 15 or 20 minutes to explain the whole saga at this point. And like I said, I do want to go to bed at some point.
I'm not falling for that one again.
If you want to see me post stuff on Twitch using the Twitch Premiere system, or if you want a quick and easy way to find some people in our community that also stream, I rebroadcast all of their streams. You can head on over to twitch.tv/jarthur4707. You don't necessarily have to just stick there, but if you want to find them, you can get to them through there as well. And then finally, my username on Steam is jarthur4707. You can send me any sort of messages, questions, have conversations, and be my friend. I accept all friend requests from people, and I've made quite a few friends in the couple of years we've been doing this. Also, I've gotten a couple or some new questions that I added to the list, and we're talking about doing some questions soon, but we just need to prepare them, and we didn't do that beforehand. But if you have questions you want to send in, please send them to me, and I will curate them and add them to the list. I actually got several similar questions over the last couple of weeks.
Are they all saying what the fuck?
No, they're all related to video game movies, actually. We didn't talk about it on the show, but Nathan Fillion did an Uncharted fan short film. It's like 20 minutes.
Speaking of video game movies, my latest tweet is about that.
Nice. But a lot of people have asked a similar question, somewhere in the realm of like, wow, if video game movies, like full-length video game movies were made like this, they would be good. Like, what do you think about this? Or, you know, are there any hidden gems of actual well-produced video game movies that you know of? And it's all sort of stemming from that. So I kind of generalized the question and put that in our list, and then added an extra little bonus from me, like I thought that I had, that we can maybe talk about in a next time or in a couple of episodes. But anyways, yeah. jarthur4707. Send me your friend request. I'll accept it. Send me your questions. Send me some interesting topics of discussion.
And
I'll be there to chat with you.
You could also send them the password for the week to let them know exactly what episode of the podcast you're coming from. And of course, the password for this week is balls. Balls.
Well played.
And that's with a Z, by the way. Or with a Z, depending on where you live.
Nice.
Balls.
So what about you, buddy? What's going on and where can they find you?
Well, I'm over at Gaming with Caffeine Rage, where for now I still just have RimWorld going. I haven't gone through the choosing. And of course, well, you've also mentioned that Spin Tires Budrunner is starting up next week, which will also be on my channel. If you wish to see some of the more boring yet competent gameplay. Is that unfair?
We've each had our moments, but I'd say I've had more moments than you in terms of mishaps. Happy little accidents.
Well,
that's what they've been.
Some of them for you did involve a tree.
I've had several mishaps with water.
But yeah, I need to sit down and figure out the other game to be playing, and I just haven't sat down and done it yet. I have my short list done. It's just need to do the recording testing and do more extensive recording testing this time around. Granted, last time I did testing for 3 hours and things still broke. So, yeah. But Gaming with Caffeine Rage on the YouTubes, or you can see me tweet over at Gaming with CR, where I've been actually active in the last few days. My last one was a retweet on the announcement for the Sonic movie. And first of all, yes, there is a Sonic movie. And did you see the casting announcement?
No.
Jim Carrey is going to be Dr. Robotnik.
Huh.
And I'm not sure what distresses me more, that casting announcement or the fact that there's a Sonic movie.
Well, I knew that there was a Sonic movie.
I forgot about it. And it's going to be a CG / live action one. So does that mean it's going to be Jim Carrey live action as Dr. Robotnik?
Probably, but Jim Carrey could do it.
Old Jim Carrey, maybe.
Well, Jim Carrey's getting old, so there you go.
I just
think Jim Carrey.
I just see him as too wacky for Robotnik. I mean, don't get me wrong. Robotnik, at least on the cartoons, was wacky, but not Jim Carrey level wacky. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I suppose we'll find out, but I think he could do it.
And I've also been bitching about, Halloween candy already being sold,
Yeah.
But you can find that over at Gaming with CR on the Twitters. If you wish to see me bitch about who knows what. Maybe I should have posted my bell peppers, At least then I would have had something about me not complaining, right?
Maybe so. Although complaining is your thing, so.
Almost like I'm getting old and bitter or something, right?
Yeah.
As I stall for time as I scroll back up. And then scroll too far and scroll back down. Okay, so once again, if you wish to see us or send us something on the Twitters, you could do so VGL Podcast, or just email us VGLpodcast@gmail.com with your letters, voicemails, gaming-related topics, or questions for Jared to call. Okay, that's probably a little mean, but he'll curate them, right?
Absolutely. Curate with love.
And if you wish to curate us with money, you can do so patreon.com/VGL Podcast, which is paid for our Podbean account, VGLpodcast.podbean.com, as well as iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and now Spotify. But our Podbean account does have the RSS feed if you don't wish to use any of those, and also our show notes. So you can skip all the boring bits and get right to the portion where we end the podcast, right?
Absolutely.
And speaking of ending the podcast, our intro and outro music is On the Ground by Kevin McLeod, and our Discovery Cue music is Doobly Doo by the same artist. His work can be found at incomputech.com, and
as always, as his lovely music starts to roll across my voice. Bye-bye now.
I'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
So, the fact that they're making a Sonic movie and trying to make it a serious guy in Green Hill Zone, a cop trying to help Sonic escape the government. What the fuck?
Yes. I'm on board for this. It sounds stupid as shit and B-movie as fuck, and I'm all about that.
Yeah, but the thing is that they're going to ruin it by having too good a CGI. They need to have Sonic be obviously CGI,
I want this movie to be so bad it's good. I don't want it to be good at all. I don't even want to pretend that it's a good movie. I want it to be terrible, but hilarious.
Yeah, but they're pouring too much money into this to make it, be bad. Or, be that bad, I should say. There's bad, then there's that bad. And the fact...
Did you see the Speed Racer movie? They spent a shitload of money on that movie, and it's terrible.
Yeah, but let's be honest. John Goodman doesn't require the budget that Jim Carrey does. Don't get me wrong. I like my John Goodman. But, there are different levels of salary,
Yeah.
And the fact that they have Jim Carrey as the bad guy makes me think that they're going to have a shitload of salary. As a matter of fact,
I suppose we'll find out.
What was the, let's see, IMDb? Because they had some other cast listing as well. Sonic the Hedgehog 2019. To be fair, I don't know why I'm looking at the cast list, because I don't really watch movies, so these names are completely lost on me.
IMDb. Let me go look at it. Because I do watch movies. I watch a lot of movies. Sonic.
Yeah, a cop in a rural town of Green Hills will help Sonic escape from the government who's looking to capture him. That and Jim Carrey's the biggest name attached to this.
Jim Carrey. James Marsden. I recognize him from
X-Men.
something.
He was in X-Men. He was Cyclops.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Granted, I'm guessing that's the cop.
Let's see. Full cast.
Notice they haven't announced who Sonic is.
Yeah, there's a lot of cast.
Okay.
Cast missing.
All right. I just had a thought, okay? To put it in the so bad it's good, they don't CGI Sonic, all right? All right?
Uh-huh.
Danny DeVito painted blue.
Okay.
That's Sonic.
Nice. I could handle that. I could go for that.
And he'd be about the right size.
All right. I don't know this lady. Jeannie. Whatever. Nope. I don't recognize this girl from anything. Debs Howard. Natasha Rothwell. I don't recognize her for anything either. I thought for a second she was on one of the Marvel TV shows.
So
I guess she just looks like one of the characters. So this is...
So we have Truman and Cyclops.
Yeah.
Or Ace Ventura and Cyclops, depending on which side of Jim Carrey we're going with.
Oh, this lady was the wife in Ride Along. Tika Sumpter. She was Chris Rock's wife in the movie. She was she was a bit part in Salt, the Angelina Jolie movie from 2010, where she's like some kind of
the documentary about Twitch chat.
Yeah, that's the only things I know her from, and I don't remember her from Salt, because she's credited as front desk woman. So I guess Chris Rock's wife is a step up from that. They're playing a trailer for something that Natalie Dormer's in. She was Marjorie Tyrell on Game of Thrones. And she's also like one of the hottest actresses alive. I'd bone down. All right, we're like in another section. This is not just the post whatever. So goodbye. Good night.